The Drachnid Empire's research facility loomed against the purple sky of Nexus Prime, its obsidian towers piercing through the perpetual storm clouds. Within its depths, Grand Admiral Vexthor watched through reinforced glass as his soldiers dragged a struggling human female toward the containment chamber. Specimen 2187 shows remarkable telepathic abilities, Chief Scientist Zarnak reported, his scaled fingers dancing across the holographic display. Her psionic signature is stronger than any we've encountered in the past millennium. The human, Isabella Winter, had been captured during a routine exploration mission. What started as a standard DNA harvest revealed something extraordinary. A human with natural telepathic abilities that rivaled their most advanced genetic engineering. Vexthor's crimson eyes narrowed as Isabella was secured in the chamber. At 25, she possessed a fierce determination that had already cost them 3 guards during previous escape attempts. Her dark hair fell in waves around her face, partially hiding the neural inhibitor grafted to her neck. "And you believe she can control it?" Vexthor asked, his voice resonating with the deep harmonics typical of his species. "That's what we intend to find out," Zarnak replied, initiating the connection sequence. If successful, she could be the key to controlling Project Wraith. The name sent a chill through the observation deck. Project Wraith, the Empire's most ambitious and dangerous biological weapon. A creature engineered from the genetic material of a dozen apex predator species, enhanced with cybernetic improvements and blessed with devastating psychic abilities. But like all weapons of such magnitude, it had proved impossible to control. Isabella's eyes snapped open as the neural inhibitor deactivated. The sudden rush of sensory input made her gasp, thousands of minds pressing against her consciousness like waves against a shore. She had learned to control this ability on Earth, but here, surrounded by alien minds, the experience was overwhelming. "Begin the introduction," Vexthor commanded. Deep beneath the chamber, massive doors ground open. The sound of heavy chains and reinforced restraints echoed through the facility. Isabella felt it before she saw it, a presence so vast and ancient it took her breath away, a mind unlike anything she had encountered before. Wraith emerged from the shadows, its massive form dwarfing the chamber. 12 feet of rippling muscle and armored scales, crowned with neural augments that pulsed with otherworldly energy. Its 6 eyes, each a different color, fixed upon Isabella with predatory focus. The creature's mind struck her like a physical blow. Images of destruction, planets laid waste, entire species extinguished, all filtered through a consciousness that burned with rage and pain. The Drachnids had created their perfect weapon, but they had never considered the cost of consciousness. Isabella's knees buckled under the psychic assault, but she refused to look away. Instead, she did something that surprised even herself. She reached out with her mind, not to control or dominate, but to understand. "I see you," she projected, her thoughts cutting through the chaos of Wraith's mental storm. "I feel your pain." The creature froze. For the first time in its existence, someone had reached out not with fear or the intent to control, but with empathy. Its massive head tilted, studying her with newfound curiosity. In the observation deck, alarms began to blare. "The psionic readings are off the charts," Zarnak shouted, his scales paling. "They're forming a connection." Vexthor watched in growing horror as Wraith's aggressive posture softened. The creature that had destroyed entire battle fleets was now lowering its head to the chamber floor, bringing itself eye-level with the human female. "Terminate the experiment." He commanded, but it was too late. Isabella stepped forward, her hand extended. Wraith's largest eye, A swirling vortex of gold and crimson blinked slowly as she approached. In that moment, something fundamental shifted in the universe. A weapon of mass destruction and a human telepath, brought together by the arrogance of an empire, found something unexpected in each other: understanding. "You're not alone anymore," Isabella promised, her mind intertwining with Wraith's consciousness. "Neither of us is." The Drachnid Empire had sought to create the perfect weapon. Instead, they had facilitated the perfect partnership, one that would soon shake the foundations of their empire to its core. The days that followed the initial contact between Isabella and Wraith transformed the Drachnid research facility into a hive of feverish activity. Scientists worked around the clock, analyzing data streams that defied their understanding, while military officials argued over the implications of what they were witnessing. "This is unprecedented," Zarnak explained to a council of Drachnid commanders, his claws tapping nervously against the holoscreen. "The human isn't controlling Wraith, they are communicating. Sharing experiences, memories, emotions." Grand Admiral Vexthor stood at the window overlooking the containment chamber, where Isabella sat cross-legged before the massive form of Wraith. The creature's cybernetic implants pulsed with a soft blue light, a stark contrast to their usual angry red. "Show me," he commanded. The screen flickered to life, displaying neural patterns that danced and intertwined like cosmic auroras. Isabella's brainwaves, shown in gold, merged seamlessly with Wraith's more complex patterns, creating something entirely new. In the chamber below, Isabella had learned more about Wraith in days than the Drachnids had discovered in decades. Through their mental connection, she experienced fragments of the creature's creation, the pain of genetic splicing, the agony of cybernetic enhancement, the crushing weight of consciousness thrust upon a being designed only for destruction. "They never gave you a choice," Isabella shared, her thoughts carrying understanding rather than judgment. "Everything was decided for you." Wraith's response came in images: stars exploding, planets crumbling, entire species fleeing before its unstoppable advance. But beneath the violence lay something deeper: a longing for purpose beyond destruction, a desire to be more than a weapon. Isabella showed Wraith her own memories, growing up different, learning to control her abilities, the isolation of being unique among her people. The creature absorbed these experiences with increasing fascination, its multiple eyes shifting through spectrums of color as it processed new concepts like family, friendship, and choice. The specimen's influence is spreading, a junior scientist reported, pointing to new data. Wraith's aggression levels have dropped by 60%. Its neural patterns show signs of evolution. Vexthor's facial scales darkened with rage. Evolution. We spent centuries perfecting that weapon. The human is corrupting it. But he couldn't deny the evidence before him. Wraith, their ultimate instrument of war, was changing. The creature that once needed to be confined by energy fields and neural suppressors now moved with deliberate gentleness around Isabella. Its massive claws, capable of rending battleship armor, delicately adjusted the blanket she used during their long communication sessions. Through their deepening bond, Isabella began teaching Wraith concepts that had been alien to its warfare-driven existence. She shared ideas of conservation instead of destruction, protection rather than domination. The creature's vast intelligence, originally focused solely on tactical analysis, expanded to embrace abstract thinking and moral considerations. "You are more than your programming," Isabella insisted during one of their sessions. "You have the power to choose." In response, Wraith shared its own revelation, a vision of itself not as a weapon, but as a guardian. The destroyer of worlds imagined, instead becoming their protector, its strength turned to preservation rather than annihilation. The Drachnid commanders watched these exchanges with mounting concern. Their perfect weapon was developing something they had never anticipated and couldn't control: a conscience. This must end, Vexthor declared, his voice cold with fury. Prepare the neural purge protocols. We'll reset Wraith to its base programming. But he had underestimated the depth of the bond that had formed. As technicians began the purge sequence, both Isabella and Wraith felt the approaching danger through their connected consciousness. The creature's eyes flashed from contemplative blue to alarming amber. Isabella rose to her feet, her hand resting against Wraith's armored hide. "They're coming to hurt you," she projected, her thoughts tinged with determination. "I won't let them." Wraith's response rumbled through both their minds. For the first time in its existence, it made a choice of its own. The choice to protect rather than destroy, to save rather than savage. Its neural implants blazed with newfound purpose as it curled its massive form around Isabella. In the control room, Zarnak's instruments screamed warnings as power readings exceeded all known parameters. The bond between human and creature had created something the Drachnids had never imagined possible: a synthesis of compassion and power, understanding and strength. "My God," Zarnak whispered, watching the readings climb. "They're no longer two separate entities. They're becoming something more." As alarms blared and security forces mobilized, Isabella and Wraith stood together, their minds united in a single purpose. The Drachnids had sought to control the galaxy's most powerful weapon. Instead, they had created its greatest partnership, one that was about to show them the true meaning of power. The Drachnid facility erupted into chaos as emergency sirens wailed through its darkened corridors. Red warning lights cast ominous shadows as security forces rushed to contain what their commanders had feared most: a fully conscious and self-aware Wraith, guided by human empathy and determination. "Lock down all exits." Vexthor roared over the facility's communication network. "Release the combat drones. Nothing leaves this facility." But Isabella and Wraith had already begun their move. The neural purge attempt had forced their hand, transforming their quiet rebellion into an explosive bid for freedom. Their shared consciousness gave them an unprecedented advantage. Isabella's strategic thinking combined with Wraith's raw power and tactical knowledge. The main hangar, Isabella projected, sharing mental images of the facility's layout she gleaned during her captivity. "They keep their transport ships there, but we'll have to move fast." Wraith's response came as a surge of calculated violence. The creature's cybernetic implants pulsed with energy as it charged through the reinforced walls of their containment chamber. Isabella secured safely against its armored chest. Decades of military protocols and security measures proved useless against their combined abilities. Through their bond, Isabella guided Wraith's tremendous power with surgical precision. Instead of mindless destruction, each move served a purpose. When security forces attempted to block their path with plasma barriers, Isabella directed Wraith's energy pulses to overload specific power nodes. When combat drones swarmed them, she helped Wraith identify and eliminate their control centers, rather than wasting time destroying each unit. "Fascinating," Zarmak muttered, watching the security feeds from his lab. "The human isn't just directing the creature. She's teaching it efficiency, conservation of energy, strategic thinking beyond mere destruction." The Drachnid soldiers found themselves facing an opponent that combined unstoppable force with tactical brilliance. Wraith's raw power, once unleashed only for maximum devastation, now moved with purpose and precision. The creature that had once leveled cities now carefully calculated each action, to minimize structural damage that might endanger Isabella. Through the facility's winding corridors, they encountered waves of resistance. Elite Drachnid shock troops, armed with weapons designed specifically to subdue Wraith, found their tactics useless against the creature's newfound adaptability. Isabella's telepathic abilities provided crucial seconds of warning before each ambush, allowing them to stay one step ahead of their pursuers. "They're sealing the hangar," Isabella warned, sensing the frantic thoughts of the facility's commanders. "We have less than 2 minutes." Wraith's response was immediate. The creature diverted power to its cybernetic enhancements, its muscle mass visibly increasing as organic and mechanical systems worked in perfect harmony. They burst through the final set of security doors, just as the massive hangar gates began to close. Inside the hangar, chaos reigned. Maintenance crews scattered as Wraith charged toward the nearest transport ship, a sleek, experimental vessel designed for deep space reconnaissance. Isabella's mind reached out, interfacing with the ship's neural controls, while Wraith dealt with the security forces, making their final stand. Vexthor's voice boomed through the facility's speakers. "You cannot escape. That ship's navigation systems are locked to authorized Drachnid biosignatures only." Isabella allowed herself a small smile as her consciousness merged with the ship's computers. The Drachnids had unknowingly given her weeks to study their technology through her telepathic abilities. Her mind danced through the ship's security protocols, unraveling them like loose threads. Ready, she projected to Wraith, who had just finished disabling the last of the security forces with remarkable restraint, another sign of their evolving partnership. The creature moved with fluid grace despite its massive size, securing itself and Isabella in a ship's cargo hold as emergency containment fields began activating throughout the hangar. Through their bond, Isabella felt Wraith's satisfaction, not at the destruction they'd caused, but at the precision with which they'd executed their escape. As the ship's engines roared to life, Vexthor made his final desperate move. "Initiate facility self-destruct. We cannot let them escape with our secrets." The hangar erupted in explosions as Isabella guided their stolen vessel through the closing gates. Wraith's tactical knowledge merged with her piloting instincts, allowing them to navigate the chaos with incredible accuracy. They burst into the purple skies of Nexus Prime just as the facility began to collapse behind them. But their journey was far from over. As they climbed through the atmosphere, Isabella detected multiple signatures on their radar. The Drachnid fleet had been alerted. Dozens of warships moved to intercept them, their weapons charged and ready. "We're not done yet," Isabella projected, feeling Wraith's excitement mirror her own. Their greatest challenge lay ahead, breaking through the Drachnid blockade and finding their way to freedom among the stars. The creature's response carried both determination and something new, hope. Together, they had already accomplished the impossible. What was one more miracle between friends? Space erupted in a dazzling display of weapons fire as the Drachnid fleet moved to intercept the stolen vessel. Capital ships positioned themselves in an attack formation that had decimated entire armadas during the Empire's military campaigns. But they had never faced an opponent quite like this before. Tarkic locked, the lead battleship's weapons officer reported, "Awaiting your command, Admiral." High Admiral Kaveth, summoned from the nearby Helios sector to deal with the crisis, studied the tactical display with growing unease. The small ship carrying their escaped specimens was moving in patterns that defied conventional space combat logic. Inside their vessel, Isabella and Wraith had achieved a level of synchronization that transformed their ship into an extension of their shared consciousness. Isabella's telepathic abilities interfaced directly with the ship's neural controls, while Wraith's tactical expertise guided their evasive maneuvers. They're using a standard Drachnid battle formation, Wraith projected, sharing centuries of combat knowledge, designed to funnel enemies into a kill zone. Isabella processed this information instantly, her mind already formulating a counter-strategy. Then let's show them something they've never seen before. Their ship dove into the heart of the Drachnid formation, weaving through energy beams and plasma torpedoes with impossible precision. What the Drachnid gunners didn't realize was that Isabella could sense their targeting intentions seconds before they fired, while Wraith calculated the optimal evasion patterns. Impossible. Kaveth snarled as another barrage missed its mark. No pilot can react that quickly. But Isabella and Wraith were beyond traditional piloting. Their shared consciousness had turned the small reconnaissance vessel into something unprecedented, a ship guided by telepathic intuition and enhanced by biological warfare expertise. Through their mental link, Isabella felt Wraith's exhilaration. The creature that had known only destruction was now experiencing the art of survival, of protection, of fighting for something beyond mere conquest. Each successful evasion, each perfect countermove strengthened their bond. They're deploying their electromagnetic web, Isabella warned, sensing the activation of massive energy projectors on the surrounding warships. The Drachnids intended to trap them in a field of paralyzing energy, a tactic that had captured countless fugitive vessels. Wraith's response came with tactical clarity. The web has a weakness. The energy matrix can't maintain stability under focused gravitational distortion. Together, they executed a maneuver that would have been suicide for any conventional pilot. Their ship spiraled between two Drachnid cruisers just as the electromagnetic web had activated. The gravitational wake of their passage, calculated to microscopic precision by their combined intelligence, created a cascade of disruptions in the energy field. The web collapsed, taking several Drachnid shield generators with it. In the command center of his flagship, Kaveth watched in disbelief as his fleet's formation began to unravel. They're not just escaping, he realized, scales paling. They're dismantling our entire combat doctrine. Isabella and Wraith's ship danced through the chaos they had created, using the Drachnid's own tactics against them. When destroyers moved to cut off their escape vector, they triggered a chain reaction in the fleet's automated defense systems. When battleships attempted to herd them into an ambush, they responded with maneuvers that forced the larger vessels to break formation or risk collision. But their freedom came with a price. The stolen ship's systems, stressed beyond their design limits, began to show signs of strain. Warning indicators flashed across the neural interface as power cores approached critical levels. "We need to make the jump to hyperspace," Isabella projected urgently. But the navigation computer is locked to approved routes only. Wraith's consciousness merged deeper with hers, sharing knowledge of classified Drachnid protocols. Together, they began overriding the ship's safety systems, preparing it for a blind jump into uncharted space. Kaveth recognized their intention too late. "Stop them. If they make that jump, we'll lose our greatest weapon and all our research data." But his orders came too late. Isabella and Wraith had already begun the hyperspace sequence, their combined expertise allowing them to bypass dozens of security measures in seconds. The stars around their ship began to stretch into lines of brilliant light. At the last moment, Isabella broadcast a final telepathic message to their pursuers. He was never your weapon. He was always meant to be more. Their ship vanished into hyperspace, just as the Drachnid fleet unleashed a final desperate barrage. In the sudden silence of faster-than-light travel, Isabella and Wraith took stock of their situation. They were free, But they were also alone in the vast expanse of space, hunted by one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Where should we go? Isabella wondered, her thoughts tinged with both excitement and uncertainty. Reth's response carried surprising warmth for a being engineered for war. Somewhere we can both learn what it means to be free. As their ship streaked through hyperspace, its destination unknown, both human and creature understood that their greatest adventure was just beginning. They had escaped their captors, but now they faced an even greater challenge, discovering who they could become together, unfettered by the limitations others had placed upon them. The stars streaked past their viewport, each one holding the promise of a new beginning. For the first time in either of their lives, the future was unwritten, and that made it beautiful. 6 months after their daring escape, Isabella and Wraith's stolen vessel emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Persis Arm, in a region of space far from Drachnid influence. Their time together had transformed them both. Through their mental bond, they had achieved something unprecedented, a perfect synthesis of human empathy and engineered might. But the peace they had found wouldn't last. The Drachnid Empire had not given up its pursuit. Their coming, Isabella projected, her consciousness extending through the neural interfaces of their modified ship. She could sense the approaching fleet, dozens of vessels dropping out of hyperspace in a carefully orchestrated pattern. Reth's response carried strategic certainty. During their months of freedom, they had prepared for this moment, knowing the Drachnids would eventually find them. The creature that had once been the Empire's greatest weapon had spent that time not just running, but planning. Grand Admiral Vextor's face appeared on their communications screen, his scaled features twisted with triumph. Specimen 2187, Project Wraith, your rebellion ends here. Surrender, and we may show mercy. Isabella and Wraith shared a moment of silent communication. In their months of freedom, they had discovered something the Drachnids had never considered, the true potential of their partnership. They had visited dying stars and newborn nebulae, helped endangered species escape extinction, and protected vulnerable colonies from space pirates. Each act of preservation, each life saved, had strengthened their bond. "We're not your specimens anymore," Isabella responded aloud, her voice carrying the weight of their shared resolve. "And we won't let you turn us back into weapons." The space around their ships suddenly blazed with activity. Dozens of vessels emerged from hiding, ships belonging to species that Isabella and Wraith had helped during their journey. Mining vessels from the Carina cluster, refugee ships from the Orion expanse, even a few rogue Drachnid ships crewed by those who had rejected the Empire's brutal philosophy. Vextor's eyes widened as he realized the trap he had flown into. "What is this?" "This is what happens when you give people a choice," Isabella answered. "When you show them there's an alternative to destruction and control." The battle that followed would be remembered across multiple star systems for generations. The Drachnid fleet, despite its superior firepower, found itself facing an enemy that fought not with mere weapons, but with purpose and unity. Through their bond, Isabella and Wraith coordinated their allies' efforts with unprecedented precision. Mining ships used their industrial-grade shields to protect refugee vessels. Small, agile craft darted between capital ships, disrupting formations. And at the center of it all, Isabella and Wraith's vessel moved like a dancer through the chaos, their combined abilities turning the small ship into a force of nature. Now Wraith projected as they executed their final gambit. Their ship dove straight toward Vextor's flagship, not to attack, but to broadcast. Through their mental link, Isabella reached out to every mind in the Drachnid fleet, sharing what she had learned from Wraith, the pain of being used as a weapon, the joy of choosing one's own path, the power of protection over destruction. The effect was devastating. Across the Drachnid fleet, crews began to hesitate. Some ships stopped firing. Others turned their weapons away. The Empire had maintained control through fear and dominance for so long that they had never considered the power of choice. "What are you doing?" Vexthor demanded as his own crew began to question their orders. "They are the enemy." No, Isabella's voice echoed through every ship's communication system. "We're the future you were too afraid to imagine." The battle ended not with destruction, but with transformation. Ship by ship, the Drachnid fleet stood down. The empire that had sought to control the galaxy's most powerful weapon instead witnessed the birth of something far more potent, a movement based on freedom of choice and the protection of life. In the aftermath, as Allied ships began the work of rescue and recovery, Isabella and Wraith stood together on their vessel's observation deck. Through their mental link, they shared not just thoughts, but a vision of the future, one where strength served wisdom, where power protected rather than dominated. "They'll come after us again," Isabella projected, watching the stars wheel slowly past their viewport. Wraith's response carried both determination and hope. The creature that had been engineered for war had found a greater purpose, not as a weapon, but as a guardian. Together, they had proven that even the darkest beginnings could lead to light. "Let them come," Wraith answered. "We'll show them again what we've learned, that the greatest power isn't in destruction, but in the choice to protect." As their ship turned toward open space, Isabella smiled. The Drachnid Empire had sought to create the perfect weapon and control the ultimate telepath. Instead, they had sparked a revolution, one built not on fear and control, but on understanding and choice. Together, Isabella and Wraith set course for the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had discovered that true strength lay not in domination, but in the bonds we choose to forge and the causes we choose to serve. The stars stretched before them, infinite in their possibility, as they began the next chapter of their extraordinary journey, not as weapon and controller, but as partners in a quest to protect and preserve the wonders of a galaxy that had only begun to imagine what was possible.